Good morning, everyone. Let's remember that the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s of the small cards are all the cardinal signs. And swords are air, and cardinal air is Libra. So we've got the 2, 3, 4 of swords with the first, second, and third decan of Libra. Not only that, but also attributed to that same thing, like here's going to be the 2 of swords, first one we're going to talk about today. There are 2 Goetic spirits that live there too. There's Solace, the day spirit of the 2 of swords, or the first decan of Libra, and my old pal Ouroboros. He lives there too. He's the night spirit. Not only that, but if we look up here, we'll see, well, let's look at it that way. We'll see that we got Iaziel and Mebael, the angels of the Shemhamfresh, that are also associated with this card. Now, you can either have a chart like this or several other charts, or you could have all that information right on a tarot card itself. Here is from the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic deck. All that information, plus a couple of other things too, is on the card itself. So the Thoth Tarot is really cool and it's very beautiful, just outrageously beautiful. But if you're looking for information like this, allow me to plug the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic. Yeah, which looks like this. Okay, the holiday shopping season has begun. Okay, there's how the 2, 3, and 4 of swords look in the Thoth Tarot. That's what we're going to talk about today. I hope. 2 of swords. Let's start right off with the 2 of swords. See, it says moon in Libra. (0 to 10 degrees Libra, just like Lon said. September 23rd to October 2nd. The original title is Lord of Peace Restored. The Golden Dawn model. 2 hands appear from the clouds at the right and left side of the card. They hold 2 swords like the air dagger of a Zelator, Adeptus Minor. The swords cross in the center of the card. A red rose with 5 petals blooms where the swords touch. The rose emits white lights. The Prince scale of color for Hokmah. Hokmah is number 2, and this is the 2. Color scale for Hokmah is blue, pearl, gray, like mother of pearl. The 4 scales for the moon: blue, silver, cold pale blue, silver, rayed sky blue. 4 scales for Libra are emerald green, blue, deep blue green, and pale green. The formula that makes up the nature of this card is 2, Hokmah, of swords, Yetzirah, the Kabbalistic formative world of Yetzirah, the world of ideas, plus moon in Libra equals peace. Harris has not strayed very far from the basic Golden Dawn model in this card. She's replaced the red rose with a deep blue-green blossom, Libra, and let's get a closer shot of that. And she forms a stylized Greek cross using the geometrical wings we first encountered on the Princess of Swords. These wings also festoon the backgrounds of the other cards of this suit. Astrologers tell us that people who are born with a moon in Libra criticize and make judgments from a position of enviable equilibrium. They weigh every problem and proposition with the utmost fairness. This fortunate union of sign and planet find a predictably dignified home in Hokmah. The result is one of the few cards in the suit of swords that doesn't evoke groans when it appears in a tarot reading. That's not to say it's all goodness and light. We must remember that the natural vocation of a sword is to fight, to cut, to pierce, to kill. It is an instrument of action. Like the mind, just like the ruach, the intellect part of the soul, Kabbalistic part of the soul, the intellect part of the soul, it is in constant movement. Eastern mystics tell us that the mind is the great enemy. If we are to achieve profound levels of consciousness, the mind must be overcome. Fearful that its existence and control will end, the mind resists these efforts at all cost. This is why so many cards in the suit of swords seem so frustrated, anxious, nervous, and even tortured. In the case of the two of swords, peace, it seems, we've dodged a bullet. We must always remember, however, that for the sharp and dangerous sword, peace is just an uncharacteristic and temporary interruption from war. See Chapter 20 for the general divinatory meanings of this card. Okay, so much for peace. So much for peace. Let's move right to sorrow. There's the three, and we'll see that it is Saturn. In Libra. It's still a beautiful card. And remember what I said about all the aces, the twos and threes. They're all supernal triad, the top three positions on the tree of life. None of them are bad cards. They're all profoundly good. Sometimes profoundly good can be so good that we don't recognize it as being such. The Three of Swords, sorrow. Saturn in Libra, 10 degrees to 20 degrees Libra. October 3rd through October 12th. The original title is The Lord of Sorrow. The Golden Dawn model. 3 hands holding 3 swords appear from clouds at the bottom of the card. The image is that of the Two of Swords, but the right and left swords are violently parted by a third central sword. The rose is destroyed and its 5 petals are dispersed into the air. There are no white rays. Print scale for Bina is dark brown. 4 scales for Saturn are indigo, black, blue black, black, red blue. 4 scales for Libra, emerald green, blue, deep blue green, and pale green. The formula is 3 Bina of swords, Yetzirah, plus Saturn in Libra equals sorrow. Harris is strongly affected by the 3 of swords. Please don't frighten me with the sword suit. I've obeyed in every way. I can't see how they can be wrong. The 3 was a fair horror and great suffering. That was a letter from Harris to Crowley, date uncertain. I wrote earlier that because they reside in the supernal triad above the abyss, all the aces, 2s, and 3s are happy. Obviously, sorrow does not sound like a happy card. It is very difficult for us to understand the nature of consciousness above the abyss, where the actuality of things does not exist. In this abstract atmosphere, there are no things or even forms of things. Nothing but pure potential. The sorrow of this card is not the same kind of sorrow evoked by, say, the death of a loved one or the loss of a lover. It is a profound state of consciousness that from our below the abyss point of view, we can only attempt to describe. Sorrow falls pitifully short of an accurate description, but it's probably the best word the English language can offer us. Ignoring for a moment the astrological aspects of the card, let's consider the unique Kabbalistic factors that make the 3 of Swords happy to be sorrow. Swords represent Yetzirah, the formative world. Oh, but sorry, there can be no form in Bina or anywhere above the abyss. Swords represent Ruach, the human intellect. Oh, but sorry, intellect and reason cannot exist above the abyss in Bina. Without forms or reason, the mind must give way to a consciousness higher than itself. The 3 of Swords represents the wondrous trance of sorrow that first enlightened the Buddha. We should all be so lucky to draw sorrow from the deck. See Chapter 20 for the general divinatory meaning of this card. And finally this morning, we will turn our attention to the other card that you're not too unhappy to see in a tarot reading, the 4 of Swords, and that's Jupiter in Libra, and Crowley calls it truce. The 4 of Swords, truth. Jupiter in Libra, 20 degrees to 30 degrees Libra. October 13th through October 22nd. The original title is Lord of Rest from Strife. The Golden Dawn model, the Four of Swords, is exactly like the Two of Swords, including the rows of 5 petals and white rays, except the hands that appear from the clouds at the right and left hold 2 swords each. The Prince scale for Hesed, or that's number 4 on the Tree of Life, deep purple. The 4 scales of Jupiter, violet, blue, rich purple, bright blue rayed yellow. The 4 scales for Libra, emerald green, blue, deep blue green, and pale green. The formula is number 4, Hesed of Swords, Yetzirah, plus Jupiter in Libra equals truce. The Four of Swords is perhaps the most beautiful of the small swords that Harris executes a textbook use of the colors and offers us a portrait of balance and order. She writes to Crowley, quote, "I think it would be a good plan if you could arrange to come here one day next week and see the swords. I have a superstitious horror of bringing them all unbalanced to London." Hesed is the sphere of Jupiter and serves as a gracious but authoritative host to Jupiter in Libra. Equilibrium and justice are definitely key words for this card, but Crowley tells us that it also brings with it a, quote, establishment of dogma and the law concerning it. Swords are weapons, and weapons discharge their design by virtue of disciplines of war, not peace. The kind of truce the Four of Swords monitors is a peace enforced by threat of violence, and as such will be short-lived. The 4 swords are arranged as a St. Andrew's cross. Let's take one more look at that. That's a St. Andrew's cross, which is like an X. Like the tattoo I've got on my arm. The Four swords are arranged as a St. Andrew's cross, suggesting to Crowley fixation and rigidity. Their points meet at the center of a large rose of 49 petals that Crowley tells us represents social harmony. It is the concord of conformity and compromise, however, that characterize a culture that would rather blindly surrender to authority than to face the challenges of liberty. Wow. See the chapter 20 for general divinatory meaning of this card. And that's where we'll stop today. Hope you're having a wonderful Saturday morning and are looking forward to tomorrow's Sunday school, where we'll talk about the 5, 6, and 7 of swords. Oh boy, better have a stiff cup of coffee for those. But anyway, I hope you're noticing my white chicken hat. It's another hat that my son Jean-Paul sent me. Thank you, son. And there's the black one. But today I'm being the white elephant, Lon Milo DuQuette. So until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.